tight ends. Once again, everybody tuned in. We're talking to Jay of Sitter Start Fantasy Football. Go download the app today. Use the referral code BS3, and you can get some great prizes and also get a great app. You get entered in for some great prizes. So, tight end, a lot of people obviously are going to have Gronk number one. I think I definitely see Gregg Olson in there, Jimmy Graham. But what is your top five as far as tight ends?
So I definitely think Gronk is there as the top one, but I mean, at what point do we really say Gronk could be a question mark?
Right.
Like, I mean, like, I have to admit, like, and I'm in the New England area. I live up in the Boston area, and like, I'm telling you, like, there's certain drafts and everything I'm in around here that I know it'll happen, and I hate it every year it happens, but there's people who will draft him first round. And it's just like, it's the whole draft. I'm like, all right, this whole draft is screwed now. Like, like, he's always going to be there as probably the one or two tight end drop off the board. Kelsey's is obviously right up there. Reed is a phenomenal tight end. So I really see Gronk, Kelsey, Reed, Olson, Eifert you could put in the list also, even though I feel he kind of has a kind of a question mark stigmatism around him in terms of being able to stay on the field. But one guy I think that this year who has dropped down, which I don't understand why. And for me, I think he's going to be a top five is Martellus Bennett. Man. I mean, he's going to have Rodgers throwing to him. I know he is older. I know he has the age, but he's a beast. He's big. He's a beast. Rodgers has never had, in my opinion, or hasn't had in a while. You could say Finley maybe, but he hasn't had a tight end like Bennett, like throwing to, like for him to throw to. And if you really look at the stats, last season, Rodgers targeted tight ends over 100 times. So if he gets 90 targets, if he gets 80, 90 targets, they could come in the red zone. They could be like key plays. He could make plays after the catch. He is a big guy who could break tackles, and I honestly think he is going to have a big year, and he is very undervalued at like 10 and 11 among tight ends.
Man, you called the guy I was just getting ready to talk about, Martellus Bennett. I think this is finally the year that we can stop saying what if with Martellus Bennett. This is the year where he's going to show what he has, because he has a top 5 quarterback throwing at him. And I think that's going to be
absolutely.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy with that Packers offense, and especially with the touches, the amount of catches Martellus Bennett is going to get. I think it's going to be huge this year. Now,
I mean, do you remember when Finley was there and him and Rodgers clicked? Like how often he was going to Finley?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do not understand how most boards and everything have him ranked 10 or 11 out of tight ends. I honestly, I don't understand it.
Yeah, but that's confusing. Where he should not be lower than the top 5. Period. That's now. Here's the biggest question mark every single year. He seems to go higher than he should. Is Kyle Rudolph. I'm going to stay as far away from Kyle Rudolph as I can, because I always get my hopes up. Every single year I do this, I think, well, he's got a good quarterback. And this is what happens. The first 4 weeks, he probably has a touchdown every single week. And then from there, after he'll have 1 or 2. And then you're like, what happened? What happened to this guy? So that would be my buyer beware, is Kyle Rudolph on this list.
He's kind of like feeling there in Minnesota as well. It's like everyone gets like really high on him, like this, that, like when he gets in conversations, like, oh, he had that huge game, this, that. And it's like, okay, but what did he do the rest of the games? And it's one of those things that Kyle Rudolph will have a great game. But he's one of those roller coasters, you know? It's like you could have games where you get some very solid numbers out of him, and then you could have these games where he's just puttering along.
Yeah.
For me to truly pick him up and to have, I need to see more consistency and more consistent throwing from the quarterback to him, and just like more of a connection with him and the QB for me to make him a draft pick. Another tight end that I think you could get in later rounds who would be a great backup tight end, and honestly this season, given who's throwing to him, he could be a tight end one as well, is Hunter Henry, in my opinion. Yeah. They're saying he's going to be over Gates. He's going to be the key tight end player there. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too. I mean, people don't give Rivers enough credit sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a great quarterback, and I think Hunter Henry could be a great tight end this year.
Yeah. Now, here's my extreme sleeper. Remember this name. If Jason Witten, for any reason, goes down, or even if he does not go down, Rico Gathers. Mark that name on your list right now. Do not draft him, but he is my extreme sleeper because I have seen some Antonio Gates / Jimmy Graham type of catches that he's done this preseason. So that will be my extreme sleeper on the list. I think he's got a huge chance of taking over whenever Jason Witten steps away.
So he's been starting this year? Like, I mean, do you see him as someone that people should probably grab in a dynasty league right now? Someone that is there, that's a keeper, or no, not yet?
Yeah, no. I don't think you should grab him. I'm just thinking halfway through the season, when he shows what he can do, I think he's going to get more touches. So to me, it's a not draft him, but probably week 7 or 8, he's going to be he's going to be a guy some teams are going to be scrambling for, because his skill is Antonio Gates-esque. I mean, it just, from what I've seen so far, I know it's preseason, but how many times have we seen former basketball players come over to the NFL as either tight ends or wide receivers or whatever and just tear it up?
Yeah.
So just be on the lookout for that name.
All right, now, Rico Gathers.
Yeah. Now let's go over to defenses, which to me, this is probably the toughest category to draft or pick up or to really do anything with, because it's so up and down. It's not like you have a shoe-in for who should be in the top 5. To me, it's difficult. I think the Seahawks are definitely that probably top 5 team. I would probably put the Vikings in there as well, but what's your thoughts?
I definitely have Seattle and the Vikings in the top 5 or maybe 6 for me. I mean, I definitely see, Denver and Kansas City up there as well as solid defenses. The problem I see, and the problem I always have with defenses, is you draft based on how you feel this whole team will do, and so often, or more often than not, a person will draft this defense without, looking at their schedule. Like, who are they going to be playing? The Denver Broncos, the beginning of the year for Denver Broncos, and on most boards, they're considered a 1 or 2 right now. They have a really tough start to the season. So for me, I would try to get, a Denver or a Kansas City, a Houston. Houston is way up there, and Arizona too on a lot of boards. The Vikings, I would shoot for one of these, but if if a bunch of those start coming off the board and, you know, you want to focus on key players and other positions, I think a defense down the board that for the first quarter of the, actually more than a quarter, the first third of the season, that could really be well. And I think they are ranked somewhere around 10 to 13 in terms of defenses, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you look at the beginning of their season, they have kind of a lineup. They go against the Browns, the Vikings, the Bears, the Ravens, and the Jaguars. In terms of defensive matchups, I mean, that is like a solid start to the season, and it's like that's what you would want your defense to be going against, in my opinion, is like that lineup, more or less, like in any facet. Like if you saw your defensive team with these teams that you're going to be coming up against, I think you'd be pretty happy that your defense is going to be going up against those. I mean, none of those teams are going to be considered super high scoring threats and stuff like that. So, I mean, a good start to the year, if some of those top teams come off, is I see Pittsburgh as a solid choice right there to get you through a good chunk before you could maybe trade or pick up a team on a waiver or something along those lines to fill in the gap.
Yeah, and I think probably my pick that could be in the top 5, which you have to watch out for every 3 or 4 years, is the Giants. The Giants spent a lot of money on defense. Their front four, it's not what it really used to be, but they still have a lot of money in it. So to me, this would be a definite top 10, but could be top 5. Probably going throughout the season. I think their corners, you can see some interceptions. You could also see some fumbles. And so to me, the Giants would be probably my pick should be higher than what they are list.
Yeah, I think most boards kind of have them sitting around a 7 or so, a 6 or 7. But I could definitely see with like Eli Apple and different guys they have on their line that they could definitely be racking up some sacks and probably be a top 5, and I could definitely agree with that.
All right. So let's go to kickers. And once again, we're talking fantasy football. I'm sure your leagues are going to be drafting very soon, so hopefully you're taking notes. We're talking with Jay of Sitter Start Fantasy Football. Go download the app today. Use the code BS3. Better fantasy decisions, better fantasy results. Kickers, probably the most another interesting, category, because one week they'll give you 10 points, the next week they'll give you 0, the next week they'll give you 2. It's difficult. But there's always a handful of kickers you can put at the top.
Yep, and I kind of always see, obviously, Gostkowski here in New England. He's always up there. He's typically Mr. Reliable, and he gets a lot of extra points and a lot of work. But kind of who I like this year and who I'm going to kind of be targeting is Justin Tucker in Baltimore. Preseason so far, I think he's been close to perfect, and the guy's got a leg on him. And that offense, I mean, it's like kickers are one of those positions where if you think about it, it's like, do I want a kicker on a team where the offense may stall, where they're going to be needed for field goals more, versus a team like New Orleans or the Pats or something where they're going to be scoring and maybe it's a lot of extra points. Yeah, so I think Justin Tucker is a good balance of that, and I think he's going to be up there. Most boards, I think, have him in the top 5. I kind of have him ranked at a 2 after Gostkowski right now. But other ones up there, Dan Bailey down there in Dallas, he's great. Bryant in Atlanta, he is always like up there. And you always have Crosby in Green Bay. I mean, he's had his moments where he's had